Hi, I'm Dr. Asha Priyanka, your public health dentist. And let's look at this first. Before we go into anything complicated, let's just understand what we're dealing with today. The topic today is the epidemiology of periodontal disease. Now, periodontal disease is not one condition, it's actually a range. On one end, you have your simple gum inflammation, and on the other hand, you have actual loss of bone. So it usually starts as gingivitis, which is reversible, and if ignored, it slowly progresses to periodontitis. Now, this is where the tissue destruction and bone loss will take place. Also, one important thing is that this is a silent disease. Now, most patients won't come to you saying that something is wrong. You'll only see it when it's already much progressed. Now, let's look at how common it is, what the epidemiology part is. Almost everybody at some point has gingivitis. Nearly 90 to 100% of adults experience gingivitis. And the severe form of the disease, which is periodontitis, is less but significant still. Around 10 to 15% of people go through periodontitis. Now, as age increases, we see this more severity. WHO even considers this one of the most common chronic diseases. So this is not rare at all. It is something you will see every day. And certain groups are more affected, like smokers and diabetic patients and people with poor oral hygiene or low access to dental care. And when we study this at a community level, we use indices like CPITN and PSR. Basically, what this does is they help us measure the disease and what the treatment needs are. And even in India, surveys have shown that periodontal treatment needs are very high, especially in the rural populations. So that's the big picture. Now let's try and understand what actually happens and why it happens. Now this slide is very important, but don't try to memorize it, just follow with the flow. You'll understand what I'm saying. The primary etiologic factor, or let's say everything, starts with plaque. Not just the food debris, but a biofilm full of bacteria. Now, these bacteria, like Porphyromonas, they produce toxins, and these toxins start to damage the surrounding tissues, much like we saw in dental caries. Then, what we notice is that plaque alone is not the full story. There are some contributing factors. Something has to help it stay there, like calculus. So, calculus will act like a rough surface that plaque sticks more to. And another factor would be overhanging restorations. Food gets lodged, even same in malocclusion, food will get lodged. If there is any defective fillings or any prosthesis, again, more retention. So basically anything that makes cleaning difficult worsens the situation. Now comes another layer. Why does the same plaque cause more damage in some people and less damage in others? Because they have some other risk factors, like systemic risk factors, like diabetes, hormonal changes, low immunity, and behavioral issues, smoking, poor oral hygiene, a lot of stress, and finally, like genetic contributors as well. Some people are just more susceptible to the disease than others. And this is the most important part. Disease is not just because of the bacteria, it's because of how your body reacts with the bacteria. So if the immune response is exaggerated, it causes more tissue destruction. And if it is weak, infection will still continue. So it's basically a balance between microbial attack and the host defense. Once you see it like this, you don't really need to memorize the etiology part. You can understand it like a flow. Now, let's understand this big diagram here. This diagram just puts everything together. We'll take a second and look at the center of it. This is your tooth and the supporting structures. Now, when we look at the left side, everything is in balance. There is a biofilm and the local immunity is stable and the tissues are healthy, and overall the body is also healthy. The systemic health is good. Now, When something disturbs this balance, let's look at the right side, stress will be increased, diet becomes very unhealthy, and oral hygiene is poor. Now what happens? The biofilm changes, and this is called dysbiosis. Bad bacteria will increase, and that will lead to local inflammation. Now, if this continues, it will become chronic inflammation. And then it starts affecting the whole body. You see links with the heart, with the gut, with the brain. Even conditions like COVID severity have been linked to this. So this is not just a local disease, it's part of a bigger inflammatory cycle. Now, once you understand the disease, prevention becomes quite straightforward. First, education. Let's teach patients how to brush, how to floss, how to modify their diet. And on the community level, we want to increase the schools and workplaces. All of this matters. Now, coming to the actual cleaning, if the tooth contacts are tight, floss will work best. But if the spaces are bigger, then interdental brushes are better. And in some patients, wooden picks or rubber tips will also help, but we should always be careful in explaining how to use them. Sometimes they may cause more damage. Depending on the case, basically not one method is for everybody. It's based on your judgment. Now, earlier we used to diagnose based on probing and attachment loss, but nowadays we're moving towards biological diagnosis. So we can actually detect disease using our saliva. So for example, inflammatory markers, enzymes like MNPs and cytokines, there are a lot of already chairside tests being developed where you can diagnose periodontal disease like how we diagnose a blood sugar test. Chairside. And another concept is that treatment is slowly shifting from the same scaling for everybody to personalized treatment based on the patient's biology. So, like example, if two patients come to you with the same plaque, they won't be treated the same way because their body response is different. This is called precision periodontology. And future diagnosis may not just be about probing or attachment loss. There's a lot of research on using ultrasound and biosensors to detect inflammation even before the clinical signs appear. So we may end up diagnosing diseases much earlier than we do today. So overall, prevention is about stopping the progression, maintaining periodontal health, and to avoid tooth loss. So it also includes primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. And there is, along with the mechanical cleaning, we also want to use chemical control like toothpaste. So let's just see what all is entails or encompasses a toothpaste. So in chemical control or the toothpaste, what all are present in the toothpaste and what makes it what it is. So firstly, fluoride, this gives the basic protection. And then agents like triclosan, which are not very less used now, but they cause the anti-inflammatory, anti-plaque agents. Then there is zinc citrate or stannous fluoride, which helps reduce plaque and the calculus. Then chlorhexidine, which is only on short term in high risk situations. Basically, it is used in post surgery and very high inflammation. And then there's desensitizing agents, which are common in patients with exposed roots. And so basically the combination is very important. It's not just about brushing alone. So if I want to simplify this entire topic for you, basically periodontal disease starts with plaque. It will stay there because of all these local factors, and it will progress depending on the body, and it gets worse with lifestyle. If you remember this flow, you won't need to memorize anything on this topic. I hope epidemiology is less confusing for you now. And by the way, you can write your own notes on the app like how I'm writing over here. And if you're ready to level up, go back and binge watch the entire series on epidemiology and become a pro in the subject. Let's now take a look at a flashcard and an MCQ that can come from this topic. What is the prevalence pattern of periodontal disease? So nearly 90 to 100% of adults experience gingivitis, and 10 to 15% suffer from severe periodontitis, with prevalence increasing with age. We've seen this in the very beginning. Which of the following is the most important modifiable risk factor for periodontal disease? A, age, B, gender, C, genetics, and D, smoking. D, smoking. So we've learned what modifiable factor is, right? You remember? It's something that's in our control. So the most modifiable factor, the factor that we can control the most, or it's in our hands to control the most, is smoking. Go and finish the rest of the flashcards and MCQs on the app while the topic is still fresh. And next we will move on to fluorides. So I will see you there.